Taurus. I'm Zach, and welcome to the channel. This is Challenge of Vedic Astrology and Tarot, and today we're going to be talking about the Saturn transit in Aquarius. So, Saturn is currently transiting into your 10th house. Now, before this, it was in your 9th house, so let's talk about that first. When Saturn was in the 9th house, in Capricorn, now, 9th house represents foreign travel. It represents your father. It represents teachers. It represents higher education. It represents religion, philosophy. It's also law. So, while Saturn was in your 9th house, you may have traveled a long distance. You may have had some hardship with your father. Your father could have been going through some difficulty during that time, maybe health issues. If not your father, then your teachers may have experienced that. Also, you could have been more diligent about religious matters. There could have been some legal issues that came up. But that was what you've been going through for the past 3 years or so. But now Saturn's in Aquarius. Also, real quick, while Saturn was in Capricorn, you may have noticed that you were struggling in your career, because 9th house is the 12th house from the 10th, which means it's the loss of career. So you may have had some issues with progressing in your career. That may have been a real struggle for you these past 3 years. As well as there could have been some delay or some issues in your education. You would have had to work really hard to progress there. Alright, but now let's talk about Saturn's current transit in Aquarius. So this is your 10th house of career, of status. It's also managers, bosses. Now, Saturn is going to require you to work. Saturn's like an old man with a cane. If you don't work hard, you're going to get beat over the head. Now, Saturn's also delay. So, Saturn rewards you after you've worked hard, but it's over a period of time. So, Saturn's going to be here until about the end of March 2025. Now, Saturn tends to give his rewards later in the transit, so don't expect those rewards to come right away. Also, Saturn has the rings. So Saturn represents restriction, boundaries. So you may feel like you're having trouble expanding in your career, raising your status. Also, you may notice that your bosses are more strict, that they're placing those boundaries around you like the rings of Saturn. Also, 9th Lord being in the 10th house, you may be needing to get some education for your career. That could be the case. You may need to travel for your career. That could have been the case while Saturn was in Capricorn also. You might have had to travel for work. Now, also, Saturn can cause aches and pains wherever it transits. So, in the 10th house, Saturn affects your knees. So, you may notice that you're having some health issues in your knees, your joints, maybe some bone issue. Now, Saturn has a 3rd, 7th, and 10th aspect. So let's get into those. So the 3rd aspect of Saturn is going to be on the 12th house. Now, 12th house represents losses, spirituality, bed pleasure, it's foreign travel. So, it's also foreign lands. So, like, traveling to foreign lands. So Saturn, with his third aspect, requires a person to put in effort. So Saturn's going to require you to put in effort. Now, on the 12th house, this could mean that you might need to travel to a foreign country for work. But also, Saturn might be trying to restrict you from having losses. Because once again, 12th house represents loss. You may notice some dryness in your sex life. It's not necessarily the case, but Saturn can bring that. Also, Saturn may be requiring you to put effort into your spirituality. So if you weren't putting forth any effort towards like spiritual practices like meditating, things like that, Saturn might be gearing you in that direction. Also, 12th house represents, like I said, bed pleasure. So bed pleasure is also sleep. So you may be having trouble sleeping during this time, Taurus. Now, let's talk about Saturn's 7th aspect. Saturn's 7th aspect is going to be on the 4th house, the sign of Leo. Now, the 4th house represents home, mother, vehicles, primarily. It's also early education. Now, you may notice that your mother is struggling during this time. Your mom could be having some health issues, possibly. There could be issues with vehicles, with your home. Saturn brings responsibility, wherever it sits and wherever it aspects. So you may need to help your mother more than usual. Maybe you need to take better care of your home and your vehicles. Now, Saturn being the 9th lord aspecting the 4th house, you could move during this time. That is possible. Okay. Now, the 10th aspect of Saturn is going to be on your 7th house. Now, 7th house is relationships and business, primarily. So, Saturn is going to make you work towards your relationships and with your business partners, with your spouse. Saturn forces a person to be more responsible. So during this time, you're going to have to focus, be more responsible, be more committed. Remember, the rings of Saturn. Saturn wants to lock you into that commitment. That's Saturn's job. And if you fuck up, Saturn's going to punish you. You know, if you're cheating on your spouse, Saturn's going to bring about that karma back at you. Like I said, Saturn's an old man with a cane. So imagine that being your in-law. You fuck up, Saturn's going to hit you with that cane, Taurus. But yeah. Now, also, Saturn aspecting the 7th house. 7th house is 10th from the 10th house of career. So it's literally the higher form of your status, the higher form of your career. So Saturn could actually, over time, if you work hard, raise your status in your career. Now, on top of this, the slower moving physical planets, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, all three are going to aspect the sign of Scorpio, your 7th house, up until March 12th. So from January to March, you may notice major events with your spouse, with your business partners, and in business. So if you haven't been in a relationship in a while, you could get into a new relationship. That's highly possible during this time. if you're in business, there could be major changes in your business during that time, especially with it being sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is sudden events. Um, let's see, on top of this, let's see, your spouse or your business partner could be struggling during this time with Saturn's aspect as well. Spouse could be having some health issues during this time, or your business partner. Um, but also they could be feeling kind of restrained right now. Um, Once again, those rings of Saturn, the boundaries. Your spouse or your business partner could need help during this time. Um, but yeah, expect major changes or significant events from now until March 12th, uh, in regards to relationships and business. All right, but Taurus, that's what I have for you for the Saturn transit in Aquarius. Now, when more of the slower moving planets begin transiting, I will go over them. Those won't happen until April, though. And that's been this transit of Saturn. And if you would like to book Vedic astrology or a tarot reading with me, you can do so at my website. It'll be linked in the description box below. And I'll catch you in the next one, Taurus.